Hi, this is Terry from Bonsai Tree, and today we're going to be talking about branch cutters, concave branch cutters. It's probably one of the most, second to a pair of scissors, it's probably the tool that most bonsai growers start out with. It is quite an indispensable tool in your toolbox, so it's something that you will need to be considering very early on in your pursuit of working on bonsai trees. So I hope that this video will be helpful to you. In the concave branch cutters, we sell the Canishan branded tools, handmade tools, and you can see the 4 options that we offer currently. So there are 2 different types of concave branch cutters that you need to be aware of, and will be very important when making the decision of which one you're going to take. If we look at the model 3A, for instance, and the model 4, these are both branch cutters, but the one has a straight edge and the other one has a rounded edge. Essentially what's happened here is that these tools, the rounded edge is a combination of the straight edge and a knob or knuckle cutter. Those two tools have been combined into one to give you the rounded edge on the branch cutter. And the kind of cut that gives you is a rounded cut, or a concave cut like the knob cutter would give, but it combines the cutting action of the branch cutter and the knob cutter in one. So essentially you can purchase one tool rather than having 2. When you're looking at branch cutters and you're looking at different makes, one of the things that you need to look out for is the way that the cutting edges meet. You will find that on cheaper tools the cutting edges meet sort of edge on edge, and this can result in chipping of the actual metal, but it does certainly blunten the tool with time as well, because those edges are meeting straight onto one another. But the better quality tools, such as the Canishan tools that I'm showing you today, the cutting edges overlap slightly. So it's a little bit more like a beaver's teeth or a squirrel's teeth that overlap just over one another, and in that way it preserves the edge of the cutting edge of the tool. You will find that on cheaper branch cutters the cutting edges will also have large gaps in them. This results in the wood fibers that you're cutting, rather than cutting them, it will be sort of ripped instead of a clean cut. This will retard healing or callus formation of the area, or in the area that you've cut, and possibly result in some dieback as well. The question that I'm sometimes asked is the tool stop, and why there is a gap between the edge of the handle and the tool stop. In the past, or many years ago, when the techniques that were used in those days, the tool stop prevented the handles or the handle from going any further than the stop itself. But these days the techniques that they use to produce these branch cutters have changed, and that tool stop is actually more of a decoration than anything else. It does not serve any functional purpose. So if you are looking at your tool and seeing that there is this gap there, that doesn't imply that the tool is of low quality. So in front of us we have 5 different branch cutters, and in order for you to choose or to select the one that, or those that are best suited for your needs, you must consider what size tree you're going to be working on, and or how compact or how dense the canopy on those trees are. So typically for Shohin sized or smaller Mami sized trees, we're going to look at these 2 models. The one is the 1A, that is the branch cutter with a straight edge, and the 4S, which is the branch cutter with a rounded edge. Those 2 tools are better suited to the smaller trees because they have a more slender profile. It enables you to get into the canopy a little bit easier, and of course the cuts are a little bit smaller and more delicate. If you're working on medium to larger size trees, then you're going to consider the next size up. I think this is around a 200mm branch cutter. The 3A is the one with the straight edge, and the 4 is the one with a rounded edge. So those are obviously going to enable you to make larger cuts. You are of course limited to the size of material that you can cut with these tools, so bear that in mind. I would suggest that you consider the slightly larger branch cutters, because they will be more versatile. They'll be able to cut bigger branches and the smaller ones, but the smaller ones can only of course cut the smaller branches, so they are limited when it comes to that. And then this is a bit more of a specialist tool. This is a narrow branch cutter, and of course, as the name implies, it's got a very narrow neck, yeah, which allows you to really get into a pretty dense canopy. It's also great for removing stubs of branches or branches on where you have forked or sort of pronged branches, typically on pines and other trees, but also on deciduous, where if you have a central branch that needs to be removed and you're keeping the two side branches, then it's great to get really close up to that, into the neck of the branch, and to remove that central piece of material. Very easy to, very comfortable in the hand as well, but it has a very narrow cutting head here, and so you can't use it to cut very thick branches, otherwise the tool will actually splay apart. So it's not as strong as the other branch cutters that have a considerably more or thicker material in this part of the tool, which takes the tension of the cut. When investing in tools of this quality, they will serve you for many years. However, you'll have to make sure that you look after them as best you can. And one of the things that you'll need to consider is that when you're making a cut, that you cannot cut branches that are thicker than roughly a half of the blade, the length of the blade. So you can make cuts between a third to a half of the size of the blade, but not any thicker than that. And I would also then suggest that you practice a little bit of initiative also in the type of material that you're cutting. So you cannot cut dead wood with these branch cutters. They are not dead wood tools. There are other tools that are intended for that purpose, and also the type of material that you're cutting with it. So there is of course a vast difference between a Chinese maple branch or Chinese maple wood and olive wood, which is ironwood in effect. So you'll need to tend towards the thinner side when cutting harder woods, and then of course you can use the maximal, which is, as I mentioned, half of the blade's width for the softer woods.